Hey folks, good evening. So we got our first guest tonight since taking our few week hiatus, and you'll notice that I'm in my new surroundings here with respect to kind of the live stream studio. So I think it was a few weeks back. I think Mike Marchone, he asked me where where all my stuff was. I got a little echo. Hold on a second. Kind of the live stream studio. So I think it was a few weeks back. I think he asked me where my hold on. Stuff was. I got a little echo. Hold on a second. This is where Rick comes in handy. He's not going to be here tonight. I'm going to be switching. There we go. Can you hear me now? Now I can't even hear me. Hold on. Can you hear me now? All right. All right. So Rick's not going to be with us tonight. He has something to do with the other side of the family, with Chelsea's family tonight, and so he is. He's going to be with us tonight. This is going to drive me bonkers here. You guys are thinking, you're nervous, so I'm trying to do this all by myself tonight. I've never ran everything by myself. Usually Rick's here to help me with it. So hold on, let me find my speakers here. Well, I don't know where that's at. All right, Paula's gonna, no, your speakers are still on. Try now. So Paula's going to yell at me because I don't know. Her and Rick are the collaborators with all this technical stuff usually. Hold on a second. All right, I think that got it. All right, so I'll get it figured out, I promise. All right, so we got, I think it was Michael Marchone a few weeks back asked me, what about all the stuff? Where's the stuff that was behind you? So I told him I tore that down, and I was kind of developing a new kind of studio for where we would do our live streams at. So I'm literally at the other end of my office from where I usually do these live streams, and right beside a window. So we've got some natural light in here now, and brought all my military stuff back. So this is we had this flag, got this probably 2.5, 3 years ago from Rustic Woodwork and Family out in Oklahoma. And so really love that. So we were able to kind of put that back up. And this is this is one of my I Love Me boxes from my Navy military time. So let me see y'all who is in here. So we got Randy, Missouri Outlaw, welcome. We got Twin Brook Acres was in here. So Rick from Twin Brook, if you watch this in the replay. I hope you're feeling better, buddy. Said he's hadn't been sick in 30 years, and his first week of retirement he gets sick. So that's got to stink. Paula Wells, moderator extraordinary, welcome. Wright Family Homestead, that's our guest tonight. So we're going to have Jessie and Petunia in here from Wright Family Homestead. They are one of our egghead members. Who else? We got Michael Marchand in here. White Shoulders Boar Goats and Farmstead, another one of our egghead members. Going down. There's a long discussion in here earlier. Say Paula Wells. Got Brad down under fella. So one of our Australian friends. Brad just got his LaLa Farm shirt in the mail, so he's going to be representing in down under down there with his LaLa Farm shirt in Australia. Got the wonderful Voon Child in here from the great state of North Carolina. What else? Ginger Ninja, welcome. Saw Ginger Ninja on David the Good's premiere a little bit earlier. Breakaway Homesteaders over. Breakaway Homesteader, hello from the Breakaway Homestead. Go Navy, go Navy. I agree. So I did about 7 years in the Navy, Breakaway Homestead, and we got Jules gardening tips in here. I think I caught everybody. Nope, I didn't. Devil Dog, hello. Lone Star Pioneer, you sent me over. Devil Dog, welcome. I see. I think the logo on there for your channel is I believe that's a Marine Corps service photo. If it is, thank you for your service, sir. I was a sailor. Love them fellow Marines. I only served with Marines one time, and I think I've told this story one time. And they were the security force detail on the USS Coral Sea before it was ever decommissioned. It never worked, never been around a group of Marines, but they did ship security. And that's when I realized how serious Marines take their job. They just don't mess around. When they're coming running down the hallway, you just move out of their way and let them go because they're just going to run you over, guns in tow. So they're a pretty intense group of folks. Love our military service, though. Says Devil Dog, no, go Navy, go Department of the Navy. All right. So want to shout out our newest egghead member this week, which is His Way Homestead, Doug and Shelley from His Way Homestead. And then our other members, the Vineyard Chicks. And I'm representing you girls. So this is my shirt from the Vineyard Chicks. If you recall, they were doing a fundraiser for Andy Page up in Canada, and for the whole month of, I think it was March, they had all of the proceeds from all of their merchandise, shirts, anything, was all going to support Andy Page's medical expenses. So I had to get a couple of shirts from them, and don't regret it. If you have not checked out the Vineyard Chicks, go over and check them out. They are incredibly talented young ladies. Our other members, Free Handley Maid, Missouri Outlaw, White Shoulder Boar Goats, Paula Wells, Michael and Bobby Harris, and lastly, our guest tonight, which is Wright Family Homestead. So this last week, we were incredibly busy, so that we weren't able to put out literally just one very short video that had to do with my shop. Got a lot of great feedback from that, so it's kind of reinforcing to kind of where I want to go with my contribution to the channel. So I think Rick said in other videos that my primary role here on the farm is building, constructing, but then gardening and a lot of the work that I do in my shop. So that's what my contribution is. I don't do a whole lot with the goats. That's LaLa's realm. I do the chickens. And then, Rick he's kind of the muscle. So you'll see him doing a lot of the lawn or the property maintenance and things along those lines. But I'm going to be doing a lot more in my shop over the next hopefully over the next several months, and kind of more integrating that also into the channel content. So we did a video with that, and then we had a couple of shorts this week. One of them was the snake video. If you have not seen that, I've heard of it. I've seen pictures of it, but I've never seen a snake in action in a nesting box eating an egg. But I did this week, and it was in our front nest box, and it was pretty amazing. So we got a short of that. So that was kind of this week. So we'll have regular videos out this week again, and we've already got kind of 2 in the box. Rick's working on them, so we should get back on schedule. It's just been absolutely nutty crazy around here in terms of just other unplanned and unexpected events that have come up. And I think Rick told you last week, I spent about close to a week kind of under the weather, and I'm still not back to 100%, but at least I'm up and I can talk. Last Wednesday, I didn't even have a voice to talk if I wanted to. And so I've got that back. I got that back last Thursday. So now if I can just clear my sinuses up, and I think I'm going to be in good shape. So we got a whole bunch of military accolades going on in the comments. So Missouri Outlaw. So Randy's always got, he's either first and he's got something to say about everything. So he says Air Force is the best. He's just starting to he's trying to stir stuff up. And he can't just say, thank you, military. It's got to be Air Force the best. Well, I spent one night at an Air Force base, Randy, I don't know, probably 6 months or so before I was medically discharged from the military. And it was a stopover from a flight that I was taking back from San Diego. Weather kind of grounded the aircraft, so they went into this Air Force base. I don't even remember where it was. It was somewhere in Mississippi. And they said, we're going to put you up in a barrack. So I didn't really know what to expect. They were like little apartments. So here's what I learned from the Air Force in that one night is they don't suffer in the Air Force. They got it pretty good. But I would still prefer my days in the Navy. So for what it's worth. But all right, we're going to go ahead and bring our guest in here. I think you're going to have a blast. And here's what I want you to do before I bring them on. I want you to process in your head whether or not our guest views herself as an introvert or an extrovert. An introvert are people that are really kind of inside of themselves. They're not really outgoing. They're not people that will kind of get up. They stay in their comfort zone and they don't venture outside of it, as opposed to an extrovert who is really not afraid of talking to people, will just kind of get out there and talk to anyone. So Little Rick's a perfect example of an extrovert. Since that kid was like 4 years old, I don't think he's ever met a person that he can't talk to. So I want you to evaluate in your own heads. I'm going to ask her that question before we finish tonight, whether she's an introvert, whether she views herself as an introvert or an extrovert. So without further ado, let's bring on Jessie and Petunia. And we've got another. Is this Jessie as well?
That's Jessie boy.
All right. So these are our guests tonight. So we got Jessie the mama, Jessie the son, and Petunia the daughter. Right? All right. So I'm gonna. All right, let me. Yeah, I could hear you before. Now I can't hear you. Can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Say something. Mic check.
Hello.
No, I can't hear you. What happened? Say something. Mic check.
Hello.
All right. I can kind of hear you.
I don't know. We didn't do anything different.
Well, I may have to have you repeat some stuff. I could hear you earlier, and this is where I need Little Rick to kind of show me what the heck I'm doing, because this is not my gig. I'm good at talking. He's good at the tech stuff. All right. So one of the Jessies disappeared.
He ran off.
So introduce yourself. So I'm glad you guys could make it. And we started following you guys, I don't know, several months ago. And since then, you guys have become members on our channel. When we started that a couple of weeks ago, and we sincerely appreciate that. And I think, as we had, said when we took our 2 weeks off, we're trying to figure out a way that we can best connect with the people that follow us on a regular basis, and that what we've learned is that's become increasingly more difficult as our channel has grown. Staying in touch with people on a one-on-one basis has become increasingly more and more and more difficult, almost by the month. So we took that 2 weeks off, and then we've come back and we started this. We started our membership program. You guys were if not the first one, to actually become a member, I think, because you're the first one listed on the list. I'm not sure if that's the case or not. So we really appreciate it. Tell us tell us about yourselves.
Oh boy. Well, we are a family of 8, soon to be 10. That's an extended family that counts the children and the grandchildren. There's 5 of us here at this homestead. I really don't know what to say. We've been in Missouri. I've been in Missouri pretty much my entire life. My husband has his entire life. And honestly, this is not I know people say homesteading a movement or, a trend or what have you, but here in our area, it's just life. It's just the way that I was raised. I spent a lot of time with my grandparents, and my husband, we all have family that pretty much does the same thing that we do. So we didn't really think we were much different than anyone else. And right before the event occurred 2 years ago, when everything started going down, I started getting all these messages right and left. How do you do this? How do you do that? And the kids were like, Mom, you should start a YouTube channel. And I was like, nah, I don't. No, like, first of all, we're not that interesting, and I just don't think that would go over real well. That like a lead balloon probably, and they finally talked me into it, and I made them a deal a little over a year ago. I said, okay, on my birthday we're going to start this, and if we're going to do this, you have to help me, because this is not Mama Does It By Myself Homestead. This is Wright Family Homestead, and so they all pitch in. They might not always be in all the videos, but they all pitch in with me.
So that's one of my questions that I was going to ask you. It's kind of like one of the questions that I go to, on every guest that we have. And I don't think I'm going to stump you, whereas normally I stump every single guest, is what was your first video?
On my birthday in the greenhouse.
Your birthday. What were you doing?
I was planting seeds. I have a tradition that I made for myself. I think birthdays are special, and everybody should have something great they like to do on their birthday. And so I typically go up and plant something on my birthday, and a lot of time it's sunflowers. So that's what I was doing.
Well, that's kind of cool. Normally people don't remember what their last video or what their first video was, and I'm usually able to stump them. And then you said, no, I started it. I'm like, was that intentional on your birthday to kind of start with the seeds?
Yep.
Very cool. Very cool. So if I was to ask you to describe your channel, I mean, obviously it's a homesteading channel. And if you go back and you look at a lot of your videos, you do a lot of cooking and really a lot of canning, food preservation, and some really neat stuff on there. I mean, you guys are very frugal. I mean, you can tell by looking at a lot of the older videos. Repurposing is pretty important to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it just is a part of our background and the way that we were raised. My grandparents were children of the Depression, and you just didn't waste things. You don't want to waste it, and even still, we're not exceptional at not wasting food or products or plastic or what have you, but we try to recycle and upcycle as much as we can. I call it, I'm doing what my granny did. Right. That's how I look at it.
So most people, when you go and you wash your clothes, and then you throw your clothes into the dryer, and then you clean that thing that many people don't even know is on their dryer until they almost catch their house on fire. You clean out that lint trap. You guys have a special purpose for your lint, I'm assuming.
I knew that was going to come up.
What do you do with your lint?
I save all my lint. Yes, I do. And I use it to start fires all year long.
See, I think Petunia's making a judgment of you right now when she said you save your lint because she's nodding her head.
She did too. Yeah.
So what do you do with your lint?
I make fire starters out of it. I have a wood stove. I call it my homesteader stove. For those that might be familiar with it, it's an old Fisher stove, 1970s wood stove, and I make fire starters out of it, and they do great. If I have to start a fire outside, I take my dryer lint out there with me and start one up outside even. Yep.
Well, when I saw the caption on that video, I'm like, I just got to watch this just because I didn't know where it was going. Fire starter. What in the world is that? What is that? So she takes her lint, sticks it into an egg carton, and then takes old candles that are partially melted that she saves all the pieces of candle and then melts it and pours it in there. And I'm like, that is ingenious. Is that something, did you come up on your own or did you learn it from someone else or what?
I really don't remember where I got it from. I don't know. I've just always kind of done it. It originally started with just saving the lint, and when it come time to build a fire, I'd send one of the kids, go get me a handful of lint, and they'd go bring it to me. And then after that, we just, you have the little wax melts in the candles, and we're throwing them away, and they, wax is good for starting a fire, so I kind of put two and two together.
So at a point in time, you just said, I think I'm going to start collecting lint, and you didn't know what it was for, but eventually you came up with a repurposing idea, and that's what it was. I've heard of when I was very young, my parents thought I was really kind of odd for it, but my father ended up, when I went into the military, so you'll remember this. I mean, there's multiple people on here that are of my generation. So there used to be this thing that you would go to the store, or we were highfalutin. We got it in the mail through because they brought it to us, called the TV guide. So it was that thick guide that you would get that had all of the television programming for that week on it. Well, whatever was popular on the television at that point in time was always the cover. So there was covers of like Smokey and the Bandit, of the Dukes of Hazzard, of all these 80s, 70s, and 80s television shows. Well, I was obsessed with saving those TV guides. So I would really get upset if my parents would just throw these TV guides away. I don't know why I collected them. I just did. And when I moved out, my father realized how many I had. Well, I mean, it's 52 weeks, and I saved them for probably 6 years. So there's probably 300 or 400 of these TV guides, and he sold them for nearly $1,000. When who would buy old TV guides? I don't know, but he found a buyer for them. He was a trader of stuff. So from that angle, the lint doesn't seem all that odd to me.
There's a purpose for everything.
So Brad down under fella says, "Oh, I put my lint on plant pots like mulch." Paula says that's a great idea. So Sweet King's Garden says, "Whoa, I'm 31. I remember the paper TV guy." So you're a little bit younger than me, Sweet King's Garden, but so Video Chicks are in here. Welcome. So I don't think you can see it, girls, but here's your shirt. I'm representing the chicks tonight. So, all right. So if I were to ask you, Jessie, you can only use 3 words. Okay. How would you describe your homestead in 3 words? Or your channel or your homestead? Now put me on the spot. 3 words.
3 words, huh? A Jesus-loving family.
All right. Cool.
Yeah.
And that comes across in your in your videos because, some of them your son closes out and with a Bible verse. Some of the words that I thought of when I was watching your videos was genuine. Um, there's a lot of when I watch a lot of channels on YouTube, you're watching them and this might be, they learn something novel or new. And so all of a sudden they become an expert on, and they're doing how-to videos on something that they've done one time in their life. And, I don't sense that from you. I sense that, this is just kind of the way that you live, and you're kind of teaching people some of the kind of novel ways, such as collecting lint and making fire starters that you do with your family. And I just think that's really, really cool.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we do everything together, whether we get it right or whether we fail.
Another one of the videos that I found, and I'm like, this is so crazy simple, but I actually went to the dump and found me a set when after watching your videos last weekend, mini blinds. So I was watching Jessie, and she was out in her greenhouse, and the title of the video was something like, plant, mini blinds for plant markers. And I'm like, what is that about? And she basically takes old mini blinds, takes the string out, and then chops them up. So instead of going and buying those plastic stakes that you get for, I don't know how much they cost, she just uses mini blinds and writes on them. And I'm like, that is absolutely ingenious. So I would never have thought of that, but it's so really simple that, so that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. I mean, you guys, the videos that I've watched are just genuine, they're authentic, and you come across as a humble educator would be a really good way to kind of describe that to you. And you got a good sense of humor. You don't take yourself too seriously, or at least it doesn't come across on video if you do.
Well, thank you. I don't think we do. If you can't have fun, I mean, you have to be able to laugh at yourself for sure. And they laugh at me all the time.
All right. So I gather from your channel that you have some animals. It looks like chickens, some guineas, turkeys, and rabbits. Anything else?
Ducks. We have 2 ducks.
Some ducks. Okay. Any livestock other than the chickens and all?
No, because we're only on 1 acre.
Oh, really? So you're doing a lot on 1 acre then. Wow.
I cram it as full as we can get it. Yep.
With the rabbits, Jesse did a video on there. He said the rabbits are back, or we're back into rabbits. So did you take a hiatus from rabbits, or what happened?
We did. We had a friend that we gave a rabbit stock to, probably a couple years ago, and was thinking about it, and just the way things were going, after a while you maybe get a little bit tired of feeding them, and we had slowed down with breeding them and basically just had them as pets, and what are we doing? We're taking care of them for, nothing, because the purpose of an animal on the homestead is to contribute something. And so we just gave them to a friend, and then of course when everything started changing and things started going south, we thought we better get them back and start over again. So
do you do them for meat? Do you do them for fertilizer, or both, or what?
The main purpose is supposed to be meat, but we haven't bred these in a while. We have to do some upgrades on our hutches and stuff still. So right now they're primarily fertilizer, which is the best fertilizer.
What would you recommend for somebody just wanting to get into rabbits? Because that's one thing, from my angle, we've been planning homestead for, I was probably planning for 10 years before we ever were able to really operationalize kind of that dream, and did that about 5 years ago. Prior to that, the property that we had purchased, I think it was just shy of 3 acres. There was no covenant restrictions or no restrictions on the property that we were on, other than having neighbors that did not want green grass disturbed and livestock next to them. So they kind of griped and complained, and never really, I just wanted to keep the peace. So where we're at now, we have nobody around me. I've kept barriers up so I can't even see my neighbors anymore. So there's nobody to complain where we're at right now. But how did you get, 5, 6, 7 years ago, I did not hear a lot. Maybe it was a thing. I did not hear a lot about it for meat rabbits. And now everybody and their brother seems to be doing meat rabbits, whether or not they know what they're doing or don't know what they're doing. I'm one of that I would not know what I'm doing. But my son, little Rick, wants to get into meat rabbits. What would you recommend for somebody that has no experience but wants to move in that direction?
Well, in our area, meat rabbits have been common for as long as I can remember. Several people all around us have them, and honestly, they're kind of like a gateway animal, similar to chickens. They're really easy to take care of, and they're sweet animals. You know, they can love on the mamas and they can love on the bucks, but of course, the babies we know have a purpose, but all the other ones have a name. They're not hard to take care of at all. Here in our area, the most difficult thing is the heat in the summer, so you might want to consider that. If it gets really warm, we fill up soda bottles with water and put them in the deep freeze and take them out and set it in their hutches. And then that way they can get up against it because they do overheat easily. That's about the only thing I would think of that you might want to consider.
Yeah, we had one summer, my daughter, for her FFA chapter when she was, so this had to have been 10 years or so ago, brought the rabbits home from the high school, and we kept them in our backyard in their hutches under a shade tree. But even then, in the heat of the Florida summer, only 2 of the, I think we had 6 or 7 survived the heat. I mean, so they're very temperature sensitive. And is there different breeds that do better in different temperatures, or do you know?
I'm not 100% sure. I would assume that the smaller breeds may do better, just, overall. For us, we have a wide variety of breeds here. We have a Flemish cross. We have what we call a lion mane rabbit. That's actually our buck. He's a cross. We don't really have any purebred rabbits right now. There's no pedigree or paper or anything like that. So I do think that those that are crossbred tend to do better. Just they're a little bit sturdier bunch.
Right.
But the only thing I could think of, and I don't claim to be an expert, but would be the bigger rabbits would tend to have more of a difficult time just because of the mass, to be able to stay cool.
So Mountain Maple Ranch says meat to sell or just to have. So is there limitations on selling the meat there? Or is that something that you do for their own personal consumption?
I don't believe there are limitations in selling meat in Missouri, but I don't know. I'm not 100% sure on that. But for our family, it's just for our consumption.
Okay. Yeah, Florida has pretty tight limitations and restrictions on, for example, we can process our goats. We process 2 to 3 a year. In fact, we just took 2 of them last Friday. We can't, unless, and I think this might be consistent from state to state, unless we go to a USDA processor. Right now, USDA processors are booked a year out. Because they do a lot of the bulk for the larger grocery stores in the area. You can't sell the meat. I mean, it has to be labeled by the processor, not for resale. So the processor that we use has to put that label on it. So last Friday we took two goats, and our larger of the 2 hogs went last week, and I think we're bartering to trade our other pig, or at least half of that pig, for a half a side of beef and some other livestock that we've got. So, we're doing some bartering. So that's kind of a cool thing that we just kind of have started into this year is trading livestock. I'm trying to get caught up on some of the comments that are in here. Part of live. So, all right. So you do a lot of food preservation, Jessie. I mean, that's one of the main themes that I've kind of seen on your channel. Everything from it looks like dehydrating through canning of not just wet bath canning, but pressure canning for meat. And one of them, I think you did your Easter dinner where you canned some ham.
Yes.
The thing that I thought was pretty intriguing is, and I think, we go through this, and I've never canned meat. We've never been down that road. It's something that we want to do. We've done wet bath canning in the past, and we've done jellies and jams and vegetables and pickles and all of that stuff, but we've never done meat. And that's something that LaLa has kind of probably like you. I mean, I think you said in that one in the meat video that you had your pressure canner for a couple of years and were just afraid to use it. You kind of had to work up to it. And again, that's kind of what I'm talking about with the genuineness of how you come across in your channel. You don't claim to be a know-it-all. You just kind of say, here's what I had. Here's my feelings I had for these 2 years before I got the courage up to even try this. But you look like you look like an old pro at it now. I can tell you that.
I get made fun of a lot. They just wait on me to say I'm going to can it. Like we'll be at the dinner table and they're just waiting on me to say, wait, see how long it is before she says she's going to can this roast or whatever. And it's a family joke. Yeah. I can some pretty unusual stuff. I will admit, not everything I can is government approved. There's this thing where it's your kitchen, your rules, and I'm feeding my family, and I'm taking every precaution to make sure everything is as safe as possible and as clean as possible. But there's places, if you research all over the world how they preserve their food, they don't do it specific to, our country's regulations either, or recommendations. So there are a few things that I do preserve for our family that others probably wouldn't, and that's okay. If they don't feel comfortable, don't do it.
We've got some more folks that have come in since we started this. So Sweet King's Garden, I think I mentioned you guys are a little bit early. We got Dean Family Acres in here. Welcome. Had some others that came in here. Mountain Maple Ranch. Tina Ladybug, welcome. Freedom Foods Farm. Hey, how are you? Glad to have you. And Lone Star Pioneering. Awesome. So thanks for joining us. So I think what you're referring to is your kitchen, your rules. And one of the I watched most of the video. I didn't watch all of it in complete honesty, but it was canning milk. But the disclaimer on that one video was not an approved method. So tell me about that. Is that something that you keep when you can milk? Does it make it shelf stable?
Yes.
Really? No kidding. How do you process it to make it shelf stable?
You mean the canning process specifically?
Yeah.
It's cold. Your canner is cold. I mean, I wouldn't say cold, maybe close to room temperature, just not warm. And you bring it up to temperature. You vent it for 10 minutes. You bring it up to the pressure for your area. And as soon as it reaches pressure, you kick off the canner and you let it sit. And then once the pressure's down and it's all, because you never open your canner when the pressure is still in it. And you just set it out and let it sit for 24 hours or up to 24 hours. It's a really easy process. I'm not the only person on the planet that does it. And it's shelf stable. I use it for making gravy. I use it for making bread. I use it for all kinds of stuff. It's, just canned milk. It does alter the milk a little bit. It's not going to be the same as your 2% or whole milk that you've got in your refrigerator.
Right.
It does tend to, I think, intense the sugars up a little bit, make them a little bit stronger. So sometimes a whole milk might look a little darker, like a sugar would darken. But I mean, we've not had any issues with it whatsoever, and I've known several people that have done it.
See, when I was in the military, we would start out, whenever we would go out to sea, we would always start with regular milk. But depending on when we would go into port and get resupplied, we would generally run out of milk after about 10 days. And then you would break out what was always on the ship, it never went bad, what's called UHT milk, or ultra high temperature milk. And I wonder if that's similar to what you're talking about here, because they basically bring it up to an ultra high temperature to kill any bacteria in the milk. And then it's basically, there's no refrigeration required. They store it in sealed containers, and it lasts forever. Doesn't taste the same. It doesn't taste the same on your Cheerios in the morning, but it was milk nonetheless.
No, I caught a lot of grief over that video, let me tell you. So that's why I had to alter the title to it. Yeah, I caught a lot of grief.
Watched it?
Yeah.
Like what kind of grief? Like you shouldn't be doing this, or that's not safe?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Is that something you've done for a long, long time?
I don't know, year or so, couple of years maybe. And then, I have a relative, an aunt that's done it for a long time. And, I have friends that have canned the same way. And so I knew it had been done before. It's not something that I've done over the course of a decade,
Right.
but we've not had any issues with it whatsoever.
Well, I mean, the gravy that you were making with it looked pretty phenomenal. I'll tell you that.
It was good.
I'm a fool for chicken. I'm a fool for gravy and biscuits. What else we got in here? So let's move out to your garden. So we're in that garden season right now. Let me see if we got any questions here. Ball is super against. So this is Paula's statement in there about. Oh no. So Paula Wells saying Ball is super against canning dairy.
It's a big no-no in some circles, yes. The powers that be say no, don't do it.
So Dean Family Acres, glad you could stop by. Thank you. Says I don't want to spend money on canned milk, but I now know where to find how to do it, so I don't have to buy it. Makes the best mashed taters. So I've never had canned milk. I've never even heard of canned milk other than what you would get from the canned milk that you would get in the grocery store or this UHT milk. That's really the closest I've ever heard of that. So let me ask you a question about one of the. So you've got your garden. You've put the weed block in, and then you've put holes in that weed block. Leave that down year to year and just plant in the same holes. How does that work?
We pull it up every other year.
Okay.
So you get 2 seasons out of it, and the weed fabric, it lasts longer than that, but we go ahead and we pull it up, and that way we can still add our amendments to what we have to do, especially to keep the soil from getting compacted. So actually this year we have pulled everything up and have been working on doing that exactly. And Petunia just said Jason Wright's on here, so that's husband. He's in the comments.
Oh.
So we're working on that right now, and then once we get everything amended the way that we want it, then we'll put our weed barrier back down.
So Jason Wright, welcome. So the home team is doing wonderful. And Jessie's trying to convince me that she's an introvert, and I'm not buying it. I just gave away my answer, didn't I?
Uh-huh.
So I was going to ask the question at the end. So, all right, I let the cat out of the bag. So we spent some time chatting prior to this, and Jessie was trying to convince me that she's a functional introvert, and I'm like, I've watched a lot of your videos, and I don't buy the whole introvert thing. You've got a very humble way of communicating. I don't know that I buy that. So
I promise it's true.
Huh?
I said I promise it's true. Cross my heart.
Simply Jan Homestead. So Jan, how are you, my friend? Glad you could make it in here. So you mentioned on the video, I think it was about a year old, so it was last year's garden. You planted, and I've only seen one other person. I mean, and I actually asked her about Avun Child, who's also in the chat tonight. Planted last year cucamelons, and she said they went everywhere, a little slow to start. So what was your experience with them?
Have mercy. Every year I say I'm not going to grow them, and then I go ahead and plant them, and they take over. They make way more than you will eat. I beg little children to come pick them. Yeah, they're going to have their own little space away from every living thing in my garden this year because they just take over.
Well, that's what I've done. I've built a completely separate trellis. It's a half of a cattle panel with T-posts, and that's what I'm going to grow them on. Because here's what I have discovered. I'm always trying to find different plants that most people will call invasive, and I try to find invasive plants that I can plant right up against my goat fence that will form a forage for our goats. And what I have, all the research that I have found, is that variety of cucamelon, I think it's the Mexican sour gherkin, is fully digestible and safe for small ruminant animals. So if I can find something that will grow like nuts and behave as a perennial, I'm gonna actually do a kind of a livestock test. So make sure that we can safely give it to the goats and it doesn't harm them and we don't have any adverse effects. And if we can get that, then I'm going to start planting them around my fence, the exterior fence, and so that the goats will have an additional level of forage. Because the research that I have found, the studies that I have found, says that they can eat the entire plant, not just the fruit. So I'm kind of excited about that. So if that works out, I'll have a ready source of wild growing plants. So same thing with mint. I'm planting mint around the exterior of my goat paddocks, because they can eat mint and it has no adverse effect, and actually says it can help with worming issues. So you would not recommend putting cucamelons near anything other any other living thing, is what you're saying? What?
They are slow to take off. Just when you think they're not going to do anything, you'll get up the next morning and they've grown like a foot, and they're so tiny, you really don't think they're going to be very substantial. The first year that I grew them, we only planted 3, I believe, and it probably took up like a 16-foot row. I mean, it was just, and went up over my arbor, and it just was crazy. Yeah.
So Voon Child says my cucamelons grew into my tomatoes and some flowers. It was nuts. So I think Voon said she planted them in a basket and let them grow down, I think is what she told me. And so these are on the ground, and I actually put a cattle panel in for them to grow up. And I mean, what'd you do with them? The ones that you were able to pick? I know they're pretty prolific. What did you do with them?
Well, we ate some for a while, just fresh eating, salads, that type of thing. I did try to pickle them, and for me, the skins were too thick. I didn't really like it very much. Somebody else might have a different opinion on that, but I didn't really feel like they did well for that. And then we gave them to the chickens, and we gave them to the rabbits, and we gave them to everybody that drove past the house, and every child that came around, and there was just so many, and they last all the way up till frost here. Yeah, they're a mess.
So Jason Wright said no. Is he responding to the cucamelons?
I don't know, but
so,
it might be, I don't know.
So he might not be a fan of the cucamelon. But we planted 2. I've started a food forest this year, and with old seeds that are 3 years old or so. I just went out and broadcast spread them in a very large pine tree stand that I have. And when I said that I planted cucamelons and squash and tomatoes and all this stuff inside of a stand of pine trees, people were like, kind of like, yeah, we're going to see how that turns out. They weren't very supportive. And I'm like, I want things that are going to grow, that are going to be hardy, that I don't have to feed a lot. And all of the stuff that I just kind of broadcast spread, because underneath that pine tree, because all the pine needles, it's really acidic soil. So if you can find the right acidic plants, so I've planted tomatoes in there, I've got some cucamelons in there. All of our herbs that I've planted are all kind of spread within this pine tree stand. Blueberries I planted in there, and they're all doing exceptionally well. And all I did was I didn't even amend the soil. I just stuck it into the dirt, and they're growing crazy. So, it's just finding the right mix of plants for whatever you're putting in, and they're doing exceptional. So no. All right, what else I got in here? So talked about the ground cow. We talked about the rabbits. What do you do with your guinea hens? I didn't see a whole lot of them running around out there. Do you just got a few?
We just have the 2. We did have more, but as keeps are hard to keep alive sometimes, and that's what guinea chicks are. And I ended up losing 5 right off the bat. They got away from us, but they're primarily for pest control. They make great guardians. If anything comes around at all, they will let you know. And they also eat snakes. And my husband, who's on here, absolutely hates snakes, so that's why he tolerates my birds, because they eat the snakes.
Well, he needs to go check out my snake video from this week. That will
He
probably.
wouldn't like it.
So, that's that cough, still not gone. So we're down there eating just before this live tonight, and LaLa says I actually got the courage to go out and get eggs because that's where that snake was in that front nesting box. So that's funny. So we had a woman here locally that tried to convince me that I should get some of those guineas, and that I would absolutely love them. And when I started kind of talking to other people, they said, they're excellent for protection. They're loud, so if anything comes within their environment, they just make tons and tons and tons of noise. But they are prolific breeders, was kind of the consensus that I got. And you will have many more than you want very quickly if you don't keep them in check. Was that been your experience?
That's accurate. It's nice. Having a few is great. They do their job and they're not overwhelming, but they can get out of hand very quickly. I have an aunt who used to raise them, and she had so many. They were flying up on top of her house. They were all over the place. They were just screaming and barking their heads off. And I mean, they can get overwhelming really fast. So definitely only recommend a few. Now, if you have a vast amount of land and they can just roam and they may not be right on top of you all the time, it might be okay. But they multiply very quickly.
I think somebody's telling Paul is probably telling me what my timeline is tonight, because I don't have anybody else reminding me, and Randy's encouraging her. And so Jan says she's looking for guinea hens. So there it is. I'm looking for that. So Jan's looking for guinea. So get in touch with Wright Family Homestead. They can tell you the goods and bads about guineas. I don't know nothing about them other than we decided not to. So the guineas, do they take care of ticks a lot?
Yes, they do.
Really?
Yes.
Huh. All right. What else? We talked about your lint. All right. We talked about your mini blinds. Talked about your. All right. Well, I went through all my questions and comments and all. So that was funny. You got to admit, that was funny. I've never met a lint collector, and so let me look at my comments here. So White Shoulders, they said, get chicks, Jan. If you get adults, they will need pen for a time, or they try to get back to where they were hatched. So are you talking about guineas, Jan? So
guineas are territorial, yes.
Really? So the vineyard chicks, they said, we just bought some plastic snakes, and that was one of Paula's videos. So she gets plastic snakes and puts them in the garden. So whether it works or not, Paula is going to take the internet by storm. So there's going to be this gigantic surge of plastic snakes around the world, thanks to Paula Wells. It's all Paula. So the plastic snake manufacturers of the world unite and thank Paula Wells. All right. What else? So Paul says it really does work. See how easy she is to get wound up. All right, folks. I think we're gonna. Any closing comments? Go over and check out Wright Family Homestead. I went out and I spent probably 2 hours today just kind of watching a lot of the older videos, and what really impressed me was the genuineness that Jessie brings to her videos. Now, whether or not she's an introvert or an extrovert, I'll let her believe what she wants to, but she does an exceptional job, and she comes across as very genuine, very authentic, and very humble, and doesn't take herself too seriously. And I really can get behind channels that fit all of those criteria. I don't enjoy watching, like I said earlier, the channels that, they've done something once and all of a sudden they become the expert on it and they're out doing videos and being the authority. And I struggle with those kind of channels and generally don't follow them for too long. But, you know, I thoroughly enjoyed watching, you know, particularly the canning videos and the cooking videos. And, you know, you know, there was the one where you did the, you know, she goes from I'm watching her do gravy and biscuits from her canned milk, and next thing you know, she's making jalapeno jelly, and I'm like, you know, my stomach was literally rumbling watching her old videos, and I'm like, Jason, you are one lucky man because your wife can cook, and so and cook well at that. So. Any closing comments from you all? So, Paula, thank you for sharing their link. Don't forget to hit the like button. So, thank you for that reminder, Randy. Trying to get White Shoulders Boar Goats and Farmstead on here. And Shannon said nope, she's not going to do that. But Randy's might if he can get home on a Wednesday. So I'm gonna start an online petition to try to get White Shoulder Boar Goats and Farmstead on here. I'm just kidding, Shannon. I don't want to give her anxiety. So, go over and check out White Shoulder Boar Goats. They do nothing. They do all boar goats, and I enjoy watching them as well. So, any closing comments from you guys?
Just thanks for having us, and thanks for the support. And like we talked about before we came on, one of the surprising things that we found through doing this channel, and you know, in the beginning, the 700 subscriber video, I didn't think we'd get 7 or 70, and we've made a lot of friends, and we haven't got to meet them in person yet. But I really enjoy getting on there and just talking to everybody and getting to know them, and feel like I have, and even the kids, Jessie. Husband doesn't get a chance to get on here much, but I'm working on that. But we just appreciate all the new friends we've made.
So White Shoulder Boar Goat says, Wright family, you did a great job. And you did.
Thank you.
See, all right, I want everybody in here that's remaining for the last 3 minutes, I want you to type in either introvert or extrovert. All right, we're gonna do an informal poll here of what you believe Jessie to be. I don't buy the whole extrovert argument, so just type in one word, introvert or extrovert. All right, we're going to do an informal poll and see who wins. So, Missouri Outlaw Randy, extrovert.
Oh, no. I'm going to have to go down and go lay down in bed after all this, y'all. I'm serious.
So hubby says both. Jan says extrovert. White Shoulder says intro extrovert. Paula Well says closet introvert like me. Brad says down under fella, haha, bit of both. Michael Marshall extrovert. So you are an introvert that does really well as an extrovert. You pull it off well, Jessie. So thank you all for being on. Thank you all for coming on. This was fun. Hope you enjoyed it, and go over and check out Wright Family Homestead. You will not be disappointed, and this has been fun. Thank you all for joining us tonight, and I'm going to go ahead. Paula Well says a digital introvert. Vineyard Chick says introverts love their farms, and so we're going to sign off, folks. Always remember, treat others as you would like to be treated. LaLa Farm out.